Hey, thanks for tuning in to this special preview of How's Things, a new podcast from the David A. Howe Public Library. If you're anything like me, you've probably spent the last 5 years listening to episodes of the All the Book Show, and you're wondering, gee, how am I going to fill this Western New York, library-based, podcast-shaped hole in the center of my heart? Well, good news. How's Things is just around the corner. We're going to feature regular episodes with a rotation of your favorite guest hosts, as well as special interviews from artists, authors, and musicians, covering a broad variety of topics. So stick right here in the feed. You don't even need to resubscribe. New episodes are going to be popping up in December with a couple of Christmas specials, including a cozy Christmas book club with our old pal Bo Hutchings, a special interview from best-selling Christmas author Melody Carlson, and more. So stick with us right here in the feed for How's Things. Otherwise, it'll just be me, talking to myself, turning into a Howard Hughes-esque recluse, and nobody wants that, especially with the holidays fast approaching. So make sure you listen to episode 275, the final episode of the All the Book Show, and then stick around for How's Things. Tell your friends about the show, not the Howard Hughes things. I told you that in confidence.
Welcome to the unnamed official podcast of the David A. Howe Public Library. I'm Eric Nichols. Oh my gosh.
What did you say? Try it again.
Welcome to the official podcast of the David A. Howe Public Library. I'm Eric Nichols, and with me is Nick Gunning.
That's me.
And that's the second time because I got my own name wrong the first time. Hey, Nick.
Hi. How are you
doing?
I'm good.
All right.
We're coming to you live here from the Monday Club room of the David A. Howe.
Welcome to episode 274, the official podcast of the David A. Howe Public Library, named for hundreds of episodes.
Yeah.
I'm Eric Nichols, known online as Dusk vs. Tweak. Do
You-
I have to say that?
No,
I never say that here.
You're doing
Oh my
all the
gosh.
wrong things, and you didn't even say the name of the show, just like the beginning of the first episode, which we heard before the music.
I did not plan on that.
That's
All
the
right.
best part about it. You didn't mean to mess that intro up. It just happened.
Okay, hold on. Episode
It's nice to know that we're true to ourselves all these years later.
274
Yes.
of the All the Book Show.
Yeah.
The official podcast of the David A. Howe Public Library, where we talk book news, author news, and literary news. I'm Eric Nichols.
I'm Nick Gunning. Good job. That was the one. Let's keep that one. Let's print the second one. This is the penultimate episode of the All the Book Show. You've known this was coming. Listeners, please. You've known this was coming. Today we're just going to be taking a sentimental journey. We're going to be looking at some of our favorite episodes. Eric, are you ready? Do you have a tissue handy?
Yeah. Oh, wait, who's that? I didn't get my invite.
Is that Smarticus?
No one invited me.
Smarticus. Hey,
I heard about this and I said they won't do it without me.
I'm not trying to criticize you. I'm just wondering if you remember that I'm the one who does the Smarticus voice, or if that's been lost to the ages.
No, I know you do.
You do. You remember? Okay.
That's why I thought it'd be even more surprising.
It is funny. Yeah. All right. Well, let's take a journey through the ages.
Little known fact of this show, I'm actually the one who does the Nick voice.
Yeah. You do a very good job. You do a really good job, actually.
Yeah, so this is me talking like, hi, everybody, I'm Eric. We're talking about books, and this is Nick. Me turn pages.
That's mean. All right, well, we're 275 episodes. That's the goal here for numbered episodes. But when you look at it, we're gonna squeak out an even 300, and you consider all of the off the books episodes. So that's pretty exciting. You know how
our syndication price has tripled.
Yes, they did.
Too bad we're just so timely.
That's right.
What's this election they're talking about?
That's a good syndication joke. That's great. Yeah. I wanted to give you a couple of notable events throughout the history of the podcast, but I thought maybe I would start with a top 10 list of our most popular episodes of all time. I wonder, have you looked at this lately? Do you have any idea what some of the popular ones are?
No, I mean, it's the, I don't remember what the last one. It was always the Neil Gaiman one.
Uh-huh.
And the Welcome to the 60s one.
Okay.
And the Julia Spencer Fleming interview were like the high ones for a while.
You're doing pretty good. All right, here's the top 10. Number 10, we have episode 228, our 2020 page to screen episode.
Oh, yeah.
I always love those page to screen episodes.
People like them, yeah.
It's always
they
fun
don't like
to see.
the actual movies when they come out,
No,
like the Goldfinch.
Rarely do they. And this year, I mean, Did any of those 2020 page-to-screen movies actually happen?
Yeah. People would love a bad page-to-screen.
So I doubt it.
Right now.
I doubt it. At number 9, we have episode 245, the Star Wars Day Book Club, which features guest star Amanda Smith. We were talking.
I'm not even on it.
You're on that episode.
No,
we do.
I'm there for the raps.
You do the
I'm part of the frame story.
Yeah, that was your week off.
People were tuning in for the Amanda Smith solo segment.
Yeah, that's
what the heck.
We were covering that Alan Dean Foster book, The Approaching Storm, which is very relevant now because Alan Dean Foster's sort of locked into it with Disney at the moment. So
he got screwed out of royalties when Disney bought Star Wars.
Yeah, that's pretty much.
They said they bought the rights, but not the contracts.
Yeah. Number 8 is episode 48, All the Books Beyond, the Star Trek Spotlight, which features an early appearance from one of our regular guests, my little brother, Steven Van Valkenburg.
Yeah.
At number 7, we have number 90, episode 90, The 90s, Best Decade Ever, also featuring my little brother, Steve.
It did?
Yeah.
90s episode.
Yes, it did. Yep.
Where he would have been like 5 years old when that year was ending.
He's a product from the 90s. He was born in 1993.
Oh my gosh. So he was 7 years old.
Yeah.
At the turn of the century.
Yeah.
And we had him on that episode being like, hey, do you remember this? No, I was a baby.
We sure did. Number 6 is an Off the Books episode. It's our interview with Michael Nesmith of the Monkees. Though we were talking about his book, The Long Sandy Hair of Neftun Zamora, which I read in record time because of the quickness of that interview.
Don't you mean vinyl time?
You card. Number 5 is episode number 60, Welcome to the 60s.
Yeah, I have a theory about that. I think people are looking for the song from
Hairspray.
Hairspray, Welcome to the 60s.
You know what?
Click on this and they're like, what the heck?
I'll take it.
Who are these two jamokes?
I'll take it. You played a few minutes of it, or a few seconds of it in that episode. So,
on my phone,
yeah. They got what they wanted. Number 4 is another...
Hey, mama, what you been reading?
Number 4 is another Off the Books episode. It's Ant-Man and Ranking the MCU. This is one of our fair episodes.
Yeah, this one sounds like we did it like in a productive farm at the time. They were like, yeah, get those horses out there.
That's true.
Where are my cows?
We were tucked away, and
where are my truffle pigs?
We had to keep stopping which was fine. It's what we were there for. But we had to keep stopping so that we could talk to people. And
every start was like, all right, what were we talking about? I was like, true. I don't know. I think we're on Guardians of the Galaxy 1.
I'm just thankful that was an era of the podcast where you were doing the majority of the editing, because that must have been a bear to make sense. But it worked out because it's one of our most popular episodes. Number 3, you called it, Take 5 with Julia Spencer Fleming. Yeah. This episode was fun and it was terrifying. Because Julia Spencer Fleming I had met her at a conference a few years earlier, and we talked about her doing something at the library sometime. This was a few years after that we finally made it work, and she was coming, and we decided we were going to do the podcast live in the auditorium with Julia, like up in front of a crowd, which we'd never done before. And at the last minute, you had to go out of town for a funeral. And so I had to do this one by myself. And at this point, because this is episode 85, at this point, I never touched the technology part of the podcast. I just sat down and put headphones on and answered your questions. I was terrified that I was going to mess this up, that it wasn't going to record. In fact, I set my phone on the desk and recorded it that way, just in case I screwed something up. It made me very nervous. But yes, this was our first time interviewing somebody in front of a live audience, and maybe the one that got the best response. I mean, she was a lot of fun, and the audience seemed to really enjoy that one. So yes, Take 5 with Julia Spencer Fleming.
Number 3.
Number 2, Spotlight on Neil Gaiman, featuring our friend and music maestro Ben Lehman. Lehman on Gaiman.
Yeah, we should have called it that. I don't know what I was doing back then.
Oh my gosh, what a mistake that was.
Yeah.
Our number 1, our most popular episode of all time. Do you know? I bet you know this. It's an Off the Books episode. We did a 3-episode series about music we listen to while we read.
It's the Overclocked Remix playlist episode.
Right. That's right. And Eric put together. It's a long one. It's a long episode.
2.5 hours.
Yeah. Eric put together this super long episode of all of his favorite Overclock remix, like video game music remix tracks. Yeah. And we just listened to them and commented on them and everything. And that is, I mean, it dwarfs the Neil Gaiman episode. I think it's like double what the Gaiman episode is. But I'm glad people like it. It was an atypical episode.
It was fun because it was part of the music we listen to while we read. So Ben Lehman was in like part 1.
Yes, about things that we were reading. Yep.
He was over at my house,
Yeah.
and then the second part was me interviewing one of the members of Overclocked Remix,
Yeah.
Lion Tamer.
Yeah, Larry Oji.
Yes, and then the third one, and I remember telling you, like, Nick, I added too many songs. The episode's like 2.5. I'm gonna take some out. You're like, I think if people are already in there past the 90-minute mark, they're just gonna go all the way.
Yeah. The Larry Oji one is interesting because that's the only thing that we ever recorded that I wasn't like anywhere near it. I'm only in the wraps for that one, and you did that all by yourself.
At my house at like 1 a.m.
Right? Yeah. So that's
I was just downstairs in my own like computer room, being like, "And how else do you make video game music?"
Now, the Overclocked Remix episode, is that where you got the idea to do your Radio 64 podcast?
No, it was later. I mean, I thought it would be fun, but yeah, it was still later. Listening to the music in my own car and being like, you know what? This is free.
Yeah.
This is all free. We could just do this.
Yeah.
The Overclocked Remix playlist episode has more listens than my Overclocked Remix show ever had. That's insane. Maybe over its entire lifetime.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's a popular one, definitely.
Holy moly.
As I recall, we got a lot of nice responses from the musicians who were actually doing the mixing and stuff, just complimenting you on the episode.
Yeah, one of the Radio War was listened, and I had talked about how that song like got me through a bad time, and he was like, "Whoa, that's so cool." So yeah, that was fun.
Do you have before we get into I have a list here of like some milestone events over the course of the All the Book Show, but I'm curious, what are a couple of your favorite episodes that we've done?
Wow. Gosh, there was one where I ended up in tears. Was it because of Smarticus? Was it the very first Smarticus? Where I said something like, you can't go to war, you won't survive in battle, and Smarticus was like, you don't know that.
I don't know, honestly. I feel like after episode 100, where we did a scripted little radio drama
crossover. Yeah, we had to retire the characters
of all of our recurring characters, and it was like that was really sort of the last time most of them made regular appearances. That's really funny to think about, like how much that's changed.
Yes,
but
at the very beginning, it was very much like, we gotta create a lore, we gotta create characters with personality, and then like 100 episodes in, like, this seems detrimental to building new audiences. Like, now who's this person listening?
Who's Brando Sando? Who's that?
I don't understand that. Is that like Brandon Sanderson? He sounds like a computer though. Because Brando Sando's the computer.
Brando Sando had, and it was Elton.
Elton and Brando Sando.
Yeah, and their time-traveling book would travel around to different eras. Yeah. I honestly don't remember the beginning of that. All right,
so
you like early Smarticus. I had a ton of fun with the Battlefield Earth episode.
Oh, my word. And that's because you weren't the one listening to the Battlefield Earth be described in intimate detail.
That was a great 1-2 punch. We did that because on your Three Nice Things podcast, we were going to do the movie, and I wanted to read the book first. And I ended up like weirdly liking the book and despising the movie, which is not uncommon with the movie. But yeah, the first
so much
episode,
so that on Three Nice Things, like, and here's another thing that's different.
It's
and
true.
I don't think people start with the book when they complain about the movie.
Yep.
I think the book is the farthest thing from their mind. But you were like, actually,
what about
works this way?
Interviews? Did you have a favorite interview or a couple that we did?
I mean, a lot of the interviews are fun. I mean, talking to Steve Englehart was cool. Yeah. Talking to, like, all the comic book interviews were very cool. But I mean, the Joe Haldeman one is one of those weird ones that, like, I'm kind of shocked it happened. It feels kind of strange to think, like, oh, I talked to the guy who wrote Forever War.
Yep.
I interviewed this person. Yeah, that's definitely the one that I feel like I have a good amount of bragging rights. It's like I have the bragging rights in like the geekdom. I got Joe Haldeman, and then like comic book ones like Steve Englehart and J.M. DeMatteis. Yeah, that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed so many of the interviews. You're right. Every time it's a entertaining experience.
I'm sure the Mike Nesmith one is the one that's like most mind melting for you.
That's certainly the one that's most shocking. Like every once in a while, like the Monkees will come on or like a Nez tune, and I'm just like, I just sat down and had a half-hour conversation with this man.
Yeah,
I feel like
I know,
but there's a lot that I really enjoyed. I mean, the Shazam one we did with Elliot S. Magan. I mean, Magan wrote so many of my favorite comic books as we were a kid. In a Superman episode that we did, All the Books v Superman, I talked a bunch about Magan's Superman work. So I honestly feel like that was the one that I was the most nervous about, like maybe even more than the Nesmith one, just because it was like so connected to my childhood, that one ended up being one that I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
But in more recent times, I love the chat we had with Justina Ireland. She was just so fun and so open. Like that was a really cool interview. I love talking Shazam and the Lucy Show and Rockford Files and stuff with John Davey. That was super cool. I honestly, there's not one that I would point to and be like, oh, that's the bad one. You know, it's just been a really interesting experience talking to all these different authors and artists. Just it's hard to put it to words just because it's such an unusual thing to do. I feel like we're really lucky to have gotten the chance to do that. I really enjoyed the ALA Travels episode where we did a travelogue. Me recording from the top of the Space Needle and you recording from the bottom of it.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
That was really fun. But I mean, it's insane. It's insane to look at, 300 episodes, including all the Off the Books episodes. You could listen to the All the Books show basically for 12 and a half days straight, start to finish, before you ran out of content. It's insane.
Yeah.
It's completely insane.
Do that instead of traveling for Thanksgiving.
Yeah. That's a good recommendation that I can get behind. All right, let me take you in some notable firsts, Eric. Are you ready?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
The very first episode, Thinning the Turkey Herd, we recorded that in the Monday Club room.
Yep.
Of the library. And this was after, like, when I'd started at the library, the idea of doing a podcast, like, really appealed to me, but I didn't know how to do it. And so when you were hired, it seemed like, I mean, you knew how to do it. You know, we had that camaraderie and it just sort of, like, happened. And we really kind of jumped in before we had a name, before we had any of that kind of stuff. We just sort of started with a conversation. And it's funny because when you listen to that first episode, which I just did before we started this, in some ways it's very similar, like the tone of the conversation is similar. My wife heard part of it and was like, oh, what's that? She says that we don't yet have our radio voices, that we're sort of just like chatting in a room somewhere, which is probably true.
We were definitely just chatting in a room somewhere.
But that first episode was also our first Lonely Hearts Book Club, which we were sort of thinking that was going to be an almost every episode kind of thing at the beginning. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So Thinning the Turkey Herd was by Robert Campbell, and that was the first one that we read segments from, trying to decide if they had made the good choice, the people of Wellsville, by not checking it out. Eric, I have a surprise for you.
Is it my first kiss?
No. Yesterday, I read Thinning the Turkey Herd cover to cover.
Oh my gosh.
I did it.
Wow.
After 5 years of the All the Book Show lore around Thinning the Turkey Herd, I sat down, I read all of Jimmy's exploits, chasing these
being a man,
murderer of models. Yep.
Yeah, he's not going to cry. He's a man.
This is no, that's a different one.
Oh, that's right.
He's a man.
Right.
Yeah, that's that one. I don't remember what that one's called, but that's a different one. And I am sad to report that it kind of sucks.
Oh, yeah.
Thinning the Turkey Herd. But I also sort of...
You couldn't tell that from our episode.
I broke the sanctity of the All the Book Show Lonely Hearts Book Club because I did check it out. It's no longer a Lonely Hearts book because it is in my possession. And
I had checked out the Wolfen, so...
That's true. Yeah. The thing with this book is that it does nothing to, like, bring you in if you haven't read the series before. Like, it makes references to things that happen in Hip Deep and Alligators.
Thinning was... Oh, right. Thinning wasn't the first one.
No, it wasn't the first book. But it's not like... It's not on the cover. It's like book 3 or something like that. It's sort of presented as a standalone. But there was, like, zero character work. Nothing.
Right.
And there was a whole... I mean, there's some good misdirection with, like, crooked politicians and things. But I was kind of thinking, what if I love this book? Like, what if this becomes a series that I follow?
Your new favorite series, yeah. No. This is your Jack Reacher.
No, it's not. It's not going to be.
Yeah.
So now I can say that I've read Thinning the Turkey Herd. Don't feel you have to do it.
I'm not going to. I read the Wolfen.
Oh, that's right. You did.
I never took Blake's Therapy off my to-read list, though.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Yep.
That weird Crichton-esque psychosexual novel that we were like, the crap is this book about?
I know. That's for sure. Speaking of Crichton, our first ever author spotlight happened in episode 2, and that was Michael Crichton.
Wow.
The first of many Crichton episodes that we've done. Because we did that. We did the posthumous releases. We did Jurassic Paul, where we talked about Jurassic Park and Paul McCartney. We did, Odds On. Do you remember Odds On?
Mm-hmm.
We read Michael Crichton's debut novel, which was basically just softcore porn.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Yeah. A single floor hotel.
Yeah. Now, for the first 3 episodes, we just said... I think each time you say the unnamed official podcast of the David A. Howe Public Library. It's not until episode 4, A Babbling Brook of Nonsense, that we actually use the name The All the Book Show. Mm-hmm. So that happens right there. Our first guest on the All the Book Show, do you remember who it was?
It was Michelle Lavoie.
That's right. Michelle Lavoie, who's now the director of the Olean Public Library, was our director when we started. And to her credit, she was always very supportive of us doing a podcast, as was the board. Mm-hmm. So she really thought it was a cool idea and was happy to be on it. That was a fun episode.
Yeah. That was the Joyce Carol Oates Spotlight.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was episode 6. Yep. Because for 6 episodes, we were basically a Joyce Carol Oates podcast.
Until she came, in October. Yeah. That's really
I've been reading Joyce Carol Oates. Joyce Carol Oates will be here soon. I also read some Joyce Carol Oates. Here she comes.
I mean, it was crazy. It was such a huge deal, Like, it was such it was like almost a Hail Mary to, like, get Joyce
now it's old hat. Now it's like, all right, we've got this person coming. You can show up next time. It's like we say it for, like, the last minute of the episode. For Joyce Carol Oates was like a 7-episode lead up.
Definitely. Yeah.
There's a difference between Force Awakens and then The Last Jedi in terms of how much you need to market.
Yeah, you're right. You're right about that.
So Joyce Carol Oates was your Force Awakens.
Yeah,
of
I
guess
authors. I guess you're right. And that's when you read Jack of Spades, which always pops up in your Halloween list. So it had a lasting impact.
Yeah.
The first episode with a theme song. Do you remember how far we got before we had the theme?
No.
All right. It was episode 10. I thought it was longer too, but episode 10, Playing Favorites.
That's where we list our 10 favorite books each.
Yep. And
when you say that, you're like, oh yeah, we'll just each list our favorite 10 books. And then you're like, oh wait, that's 20 books each. This episode's so long.
Yep. Yeah, I know. It's true. Yeah, I remember the James Bond episode you had to cut way down because that was like
I remember your wife not being so happy with how long we talk about James Bond in that episode. So she's like, great, talking James Bond for almost 2 hours.
You're right. Yep.
I wish that wasn't my life normally.
I truly think it was longer than 2 hours, but yeah. So episode 10 is when we first get music from Ben Lehman. Put a pin on that though, because we got a little more on that in a minute. The first appearance of my little brother Steven Van Valkenburg came in episode 20 with a spotlight on John Grisham, and that was I was trying to remember how many episodes Steve has been on, and I never can remember.
7, 8,
something like that. Something like that. I think he is our most recurring guest at this point. Mm-hmm. And I think we actually still have Steve on the line, so hold on just a minute. Steven Van Valkenburg, are you still there?
I am indeed.
Now, you were last on in episode 209, Summer of Concerts, and you've just been holding on the other line ever since then. Is that right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Wow.
That's not what you do these days.
Wow, that is patience. That is patience, and I love that. Let's talk a little bit about episode 209, because that was one